You're fine. What's up, Ghost? No, I was just tired the past, 4 days. No, you didn't say anything wrong. You said nothing wrong at all. It's just been hard. I meant to stream on Thursday, and that didn't happen. I meant to stream on Friday, and that didn't happen. I meant to stream yesterday. That really didn't happen. And then today I got home. I just passed out. I was working a lot, so you're good, man. You're good. I mean, if I didn't want you on my stream, dude, I would have banned you. I would have made it loud and clear. You're good, man. You're good. How you been? Like ice cream, but nowadays I'm like, eh. I mean, I had a root canal done last year, so I man. I think I'm finally beating that sinus infection I've had. Jesus Christ, that was a nightmare to get rid of that damn thing. Well, that's peanut butter ice cream for you. Yeah, trust me, Ghost. If I had a problem with you, I would have said it straight to your face, dude. I ain't scared of nothing. Yeah, no, you're good, man. Technic. I remember when they stopped making those for a while. They started making them again. I've actually built the off-road truck, and I built the monster truck Technics. I got those. I've got the dog. I think it's called the Mud Runner monster truck. That's the one I got. I traded trucks. I don't know if you could see it, but I got the Kenworth now. My brother, I love my brother to death. He's had his fair share of problems over the years. So like right now, like ever since our father passed away, I've been trying to like, you know, show him, hey, look, we're family, dude. I'll help you out no matter what. You know, just once you help me, I help you. We'll do the best we can. It's been hard. It's been hard, me and my brother. But we're getting through it. was, you don't have to say their name, but whoever that was, that is the funniest shit. To be fair, you can do good at 30 if the game is locked like that for everybody, to be fair. You can do it. It'll feel like you're drunk, but you can do it. But you're not a moron for thinking that. I agree, 60 is a sweet spot. And then there's people say the opposite. They're like, no, you need 144 or 360. And I'm like, bullshit. Just so we're clear, I've actually beaten multiplayer games at 30 frames per second. So, it's not so much the frame rate that matters, it's actually the type of game you're playing. Most people still think you're an idiot for not buying that 5090. There's people who think that, and it's like, you don't need that. You really don't. You know, you got the money, it's still not worth buying one of those. Or you need an i9 for a good gaming PC, and I'm like, no, you don't. Most of that CPU is not even being used. I'm sure he did. Was he playing on console? Was he playing like PS5? Because if he was, that makes sense. Some of those console players, I mean, they're out of their minds. He was playing Farming Simulator? You don't need a high frame rate for that game, to be fair, but Farming Simulator? You can play that game at like 20 frames per second, it's not a big deal. If it's a competitive game, then yeah, you could do it at 30, but you really need 60 to do it. But Farming Simulator, you could do that at like 10, 20. Skill based about Farming Simulator. Well, again, it depends on the game. To be fair, I could say that, like, you know, I think more games should go for 60 frames per second nowadays, because, like, there's no excuse. Especially with AI upscaling and stuff like that. It needs to be 60 for most games at this point. He was playing on PC, and damn. Well, the thing is, like, if the game is designed around it, you can still do 30 if the game is designed for it. Like, for example, the Devil May Cry reboot from 2013. That game is designed for 30 frames per second. It's designed for it. You can play it at 60, which I did, but the controls are designed for 30 because there's a slight delay to them. And they designed that for 30 FPS. you know. So when you play the game at 60, you notice, yeah, it looks nicer, but the controls don't fix the damn thing. Yeah, but that other guy's a douche, though. He's like... 60 should be the standard as far as I'm concerned. Anything higher than 60 is a benefit. That's it. Or luxury. Like another game that's a good example of 30 FPS. Nah. No, not by today's standards. 10, 15 years ago, yeah. Today, no. It should be 60. For what we have now, it should be 60, period. But like an example of a game that has to run at 30 is, ever play LA Noire? That game is locked at 30, and it is because of the facial animations. They were recorded at 30 FPS. I think if you get the Ultimate Edition, it might go to 60 because they use some middleware to fix that issue. But if you play the original, even on PC, it's locked at 30, no matter what. Every time you mod it to 60, like, Rockstar patches it out, so... another example of a game that's locked at 30 is Split Second. I did unlock it to 60 and it broke the game. Well, here's the thing about GTA 6, they're going for console first. I'm not even looking forward to GTA 6. I think it's played out by this point because I look at the trailer and I'm like, I've done this shit. I don't want to do it anymore. Like, I want to be the good guy. I don't want to be the bad guy no more. I've had fun with that. It's like Dr. Dre's first comeback. Been there, done that. I'm thinking about grabbing it maybe a little later. I know it's new. It came out recently. I think it's still in early access. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I gotta check it out. It takes place in like 83, 84. Just fine with me. same with like. Oh yeah, you're gonna see that from time to time. Family trees some start in weird spots, and you're stuck with, oh, that's where I'm from. Okay. A lot of people still don't understand how computers work. I'm like, you still don't understand how a processor works? It's really not that hard to understand. Like, what does a CPU do? It just does math. That's it. No, it does a lot more than that. No, it just does math. That's it. It's the same thing a calculator does. You know what kind of math? Ones and zeros. That's it. So was like 50% of America, to be fair. It's really DEI shit a little while back. People going like, I don't want no white men buying my game. I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna buy your game. I'll go buy another game. And then their game bombs and they wonder why. I actually ran into one of those developers at Intel because that's where I work. And they were like, no, you're an aggressive white male. I don't want you playing my game. I'm like, okay, I'm not going to play your game. I'm happy with all the games I got. They came back to the place like 6 months later, and they were trying to like say, well, our sales expectations were lower than expected. I was like, no, you didn't want guys like me playing your game, so I didn't buy your game. Like misogynist, like Duke Nukem. Like Duke Nukem was a fucking joke. That's all Duke ever was. He was a joke. Good thing she's Cherokee. That means you're like part Native American. Oh, okay. Oh, Justin Bieber found that he was like part Native American and he thought he got free gas. The rest was like, yeah, you get free gas, get a hamburger, there's your gas. I mean, free car gas. No, you don't get free car gas unless you're on a where is it? Unless you're on a Indian reservation that has a gas station on it, no, you can't get free gas. That's how the genetics, the family tree works sometimes. Like, I'm Italian, part Irish. That's it. But to really get down to it, my mother's side of the family is a mess. So I'm Italian, part of a little bit of everything. So you're actually white. No offense. Watch Legendary Drops, the YouTube channel. Okay, so if you look him up on YouTube, he's a content creator. He's a good one, to be fair. He makes good points about his videos, but he talks about how much gamers deserve, and same with Angry Joe doing that. Like, gamers deserve way better than this. We don't deserve shit either unfinished. My response to that is, it's consumer goods. If you don't like it, don't buy it. If you're not sure, look at reviews. But we shouldn't have to look at reviews. Well, guess what? That's how consumer goods work. You got content creators like him, Angry Joe nowadays, who I used to like. I don't like Angry Joe that much anymore. And then you also have Young Ye. Well, I can't even watch Young Ye anymore. I just can't. We'll just classify you as a new breed. And what nationality are you? Oh, I'm... What nationality are you? Oh, I'm a wash. How yet? See if I can make this. Oh, shit. I pulled the DSP. Yeah, they're always like, what, Nintendo could do that? Well, it's their property. Yes, they can do that. Team Fortress 2? I played it like once or twice. Yeah, I think I tried Team Fortress 2 like once or twice. Thing is, like, I played Overwatch before Team Fortress 2 because I was stuck with the console versions for a while. And I just can't muster up any, like, will even play that game. Well, the original Team Fortress was a mod from Quake. That was the original Team Fortress. Oh, okay. Yeah, I never played the original, surprisingly enough. It was a mod for Quake, which I think you can still get running today. And it took them like 9 years to make Team Fortress 2. 9 years. They started on it like late 98 and it came out in late 2007. And what's really funny about that is dude took it forever, still took longer. Hang on, did they put an FOV slider in here? Because... Well, there's also, I guess it's not in there. Well, it's not just that, it's also, like, you can download, like, the original Half-Life still. It's called, I think, Half-Life Restored. It's the original Half-Life. Running the way, exactly the way it did back in the day. In fact, here, I'll show it to you. My game is saved. So let me go here, library. Yeah, Half-Life Restored. This is OG Half-Life. This guys took the original game and got it working.
Good
Yeah,
morning,
I think
and
it's
welcome to
free.
the Black Mesa Transit System. This automated train is provided for the security and convenience of the Black Mesa Research Facility personnel.
No, it's not a mod. You could download it right now, I believe. Let me go to the store page. Yeah, it's free. Oh, it is a mod. Okay, so you need to have I guess original Half-Life. But if you install this, it turns Half-Life into the original back in the day. So, but even then, they can still play like the original Half-Life because they've updated the crap out of it. this is Half-Life after all the updates. And they logo and everything. And I believe it also has controller support, I think.
The Black Mesa Transit System. This automated train is provided for the security and convenience of the Black Mesa Research Facility personnel. The time...
Hold on, I gotta fix my aim. Invert mouse, no.
Time is 8:47 a.m. Current topside temperature is 93 degrees, with an estimated high of 1.
Fix that mouse aim, hang on. I mean, it's got its pluses. Half-Life Source don't bother with. For the love of God, don't get Half-Life Source.
Is inbound.
I grabbed that and I regretted it.
Level 3 dormitories, 2 Sector C test labs and control facilities. If your intended destination is a high security area beyond
And then I think if you go to video, display mode normal, okay. Oh, I don't have the option to upgrade the FOV. No, nothing's wrong with it, no. Half-Life Source, oh god. And I'll show you a quick review of why you don't want to get Half-Life Source. Hang on a second. There we go.
No! When people start talking about remasters for old games, one that's always going to come up in the discussion is Half-Life Source, and the reason for that isn't always positive. Back when Half-Life 2 came out and was the biggest thing in gaming since Solid Snake's taint in MGS2, there was a lot of talk about Valve remaking Half-Life in the Source engine. The technology could certainly support it and the demand was definitely there, but instead of that they did something else entirely, something much more half-assed and lazy. They took the entirety of Half-Life and just threw it into the Source engine, like ripping the toppings off of one pizza with your bare hands and then mashing it onto the top of another. The results were, well, something that's quite unique and has gone down in history as one of the worst remasters of all time. At least it's definitely a bad remaster considering the caliber of the original game itself.
Gordon doesn't need to hear all this. He's a highly trained professional.
Some of the issues this thing has are probably only things you'd notice if you're familiar with the original game, but then again there's also a multitude of problems that anyone with a working pair of eyes is going to come across. Steam describes it as a digitally remastered version using Source Engine technology to include physics simulation, enhanced effects, and more. And that is true, it does now run on the Source Engine and it now makes use of ragdoll physics. You've got better looking particle effects, most of which are just ripped straight from Half-Life 2. Textures and modelling though have all been left completely untouched, which in some way is kind of a good thing I guess, and at least they don't force you to play with those abhorrent so-called HD models from Blue Shift, which I still can't believe that some people think is superior to the base models. No! Anyway, this doesn't change the overall story or premise of Half-Life either. You're still playing as everyone's favourite silent protagonist, Gordon Freeman, killing aliens and marines as you deal with an interdimensional portal that's opened up where you work and wreaked all kinds of havoc. You can still ruin someone's microwave casserole and you can still marvel at the unfortunate name of one of the Black Mesa employees, Kuma. So that core component of Half-Life, like the virginity of a professional Fortnite player, has been kept intact. It's everything else though, where they start poking and prodding around like a chimpanzee trying to perform brain surgery using kitchen cutlery. First thing you'll notice is that, like Half-Life 2, the main menu now uses dynamic backgrounds based off environments from the campaign instead of just a static image, so that's pretty cool. Right off the bat though, one of the first problems with this thing is that every chapter is unlocked, regardless of whether or not you've even finished the game in the first place. When you finally finish that mind-numbingly slow tram ride and can stretch your legs in the Black Mesa lab, you'll notice how off the sound effects are too, which is because some of them have been replaced with the sound effects from Half-Life 2. That's if they even bother to include them at all. Like this bit here when you're taking this lift down after grabbing your HEV suit is supposed to play the sound effect of a lift moving, but instead now it just doesn't. Later on you'll also hear that the crowbar sound effect is all messed up too. No matter what kind of surface you're hitting, it's always going to sound like you're hitting on metal. Hit a wooden crate and it's like you're bashing a metal one. And no, it's not the sound of the crowbar itself because it never did that in the original. Music no longer carries across loading screens either, so once you've moved on to the next map, it cuts it right off, which is a bit anticlimactic. Yeah, and get used to this one because it happens throughout the entire game and it's a bit of a buzzkill. One of the first big ones you'll probably notice is during anomalous materials. During that classic briefing sequence before you enter the test chamber, you'll notice that this scientist in the background is just casually hovering above his Later on during We've Got Hostiles, when you move down the staircase and first encounter that Marine, instead of killing the scientist, now this guy does nothing. Now this doesn't seem like much, but this was such a big moment in the original game.
This is why all the levels were unlocked? Because I knew it was that bad.
Your natural reaction when seeing a Marine is that you'd assume these guys are here to help. But then when you notice he murders the scientist, it instantly tells you that these guys are going to be hostile. Now when you take that away, all of the subtlety of Half-Life's environmental storytelling is gone, thanks to one very stupid bug.
My God, what are you doing?
Same thing a bit later on in the blast pit, the bit when that security guard runs out and gets pwned by the tentacle. Now he either doesn't run out at all, and even if he does, he can't even be killed by it. This manifests again if you get the same scene during the main menu and the guard is again invulnerable. You just get this infinite loop of these two mighty warriors locked in an eternal battle. How depressing. This was another minor detail in the original game that was just reinforcing how tough these things are, and without even saying anything, it communicated to the player that you shouldn't be running out and taking this thing head on.
Eat lead, you outer space octopus!
You might have noticed at this point too how some of the weapons feel a bit different. The main one here I think is the MP5, which now for some reason has some kind of weird sway when firing, which makes aiming a lot trickier. It's kind of like Gordon's nodding his head up and down while he's shooting. The MP5 also does way more damage, which means that when you're in combat with the Marines, you're going to get shot to ribbons a lot quicker. Probably doesn't help that they now fire their weapons more faster too. And this is where the game transcends just being a crappy remaster and starts to turn into game-changing stuff, messing with the fundamentals of the gameplay for no good reason. Here's a good example that shows both, right? Now, in questionable ethics, when you first encounter that Marine, in the vanilla game it takes this guy so long to kill me that he just gets bored with it and even runs away. In Half-Life Source, not only is this Marine often facing the wrong way so he doesn't even notice me, but when he detects me, he always runs around the corner. At which point you can see that he clearly mows me down in a fraction of the time. I guess the consolation here is that you dish out damage as fast as you can take it, but it is definitely a lot more different in terms of the balancing of the combat. I mean, combat that was already pretty haphazard to begin with. You'll see these minor changes all throughout the campaign too. Like this bit here in Power Up, right? These two Marines will always come running out of this doorway to attack you every single time. Whereas in the vanilla game, they always react differently. Sometimes, yeah, they come out. Sometimes they'll stay back at the door and shoot at you, or sometimes they won't even come out at all. That chopper during surface tension when you're climbing down the cliffside and first get the RPG is now completely broken. You literally can't destroy it with the amount of rockets you've been given here, compared to the original where it goes down in like 3 or 4 hits. Later on in Surface Tension, when you come up from those pipes and fight a few Marines, the tank in this bit can't even rotate to attack you if you get behind it, making it easy pickings. Speaking of the behaviour of enemies, another really good example is how they fucked up during Gonarch's lair. At the start of this chapter, she slowly walks into the area in what could be described as a leisurely pace, and even then she won't even really attack you at first. She'll just stand in one place and mostly fire that acid out of her ass, which doesn't even work properly either, and just leaves behind a black square as a decal. With the barnacles, their tentacles don't often reach down to the ground anymore, making it look like they're not even active, but if you walk under them you'll get grabbed anyway, despite there being nothing there to even grab you. Now, I don't think it's all bad news. I actually think that in a lot of instances, the lighting with the Source engine actually improves some of these environments and the particle effects. They now use 3D skyboxes instead of those really low pixel static background images, so during Surface Tension, it looks a hell of a lot better. It's a bit of a shame that they couldn't be bothered doing this for some of the other backgrounds though, and during the ending of the game, if you can be bothered to stick it out, they'll still be using those very pixelated backgrounds. Ragdoll physics for enemy corpses does look a lot better on the whole, but sometimes the physics can shit themselves and do something they're not supposed to. Friendly AI during those few times when you can get it is greatly improved too. You almost have to try to want to get these guys stuck now, and I'd love to see this AI upgrade applied to opposing force. The water effects also now look way better than the old engine. It looks more akin to actual water now, with rippling, refractions and transparency, so you can even see a little bit under the surface, and it makes some of those areas look much more detailed. There's also definitely more of a contrast between the dark and the light sources, combined with more saturation, and it really makes the image a lot more vivid. Though sometimes some areas can end up looking too dark, or in some instances too bright, which is kind of weird. I think the flashlight's a lot better now too. It actually casts real-time shadows on objects in the levels, which looks great. It's actually dynamic instead of it just being a decal that lights up a small area. But then there's so many weird outright glitches and problems with some of the visuals that it almost offsets these improvements, and in some areas I think it looks worse than the original. For instance, a lot of the weapons are now super shiny, like shiny to the point as if someone spent all day rubbing these things down with Brasso or something. You can see your damn reflection in some of these, and I think the revolver is the worst of the bunch. It's the same with the specular mapping, which often contradicts the lighting of the scene itself. Like this bit here in Office Complex is supposed to be a dark and dingy hallway, and look at it with the specular mapping, it just completely fucks it all up. Probably one of the worst ones though is during residue processing. When you're making your way through the conveyor belt, it all seems fine at first, but then the skybox bursts through the map. And it's like you're staring into the devil's anus, and it's assaulting on the eyes. It's almost frightening, and it makes this section of the game pretty much unplayable. Later on during that bit where you move through the minefield and there's a bunch of hidden snipers, the skybox starts to spaz out too, leaving traces all over the place. Kinda reminds me of when you win a game of solitaire and the cards would fly all over the screen.
My God, what are you doing?
Now, I could go on and on about all of this stuff, and really I'm only scratching the surface.
I'll stop it there. You get the point. But you know what? I'll show you another one. Hang on a second. Get this when you get a chance.
Hey guys, this video is sponsored by ExpressVPN, so make sure to stick around at the end of the video to find out how you can get 3 months for free on your next order. Well, it's been a dog's age since I last took a look at a good old-fashioned Half-Life mod, and as the years go by, it's starting to become increasingly obvious that no one's going to make H Half-Life anytime soon. In the meantime though, something like M mod will have to suffice.
Something died down here.
Yeah, thankfully though, M-Mod is pretty damn good. And just like M-Mod for Half-Life 2, what this thing does is expand upon an already really solid formula.
Get the game mod. I think it's still free. If you want to play Half-Life 1 like Ultimate, this is the mod to get.
improving visual and audio effects, tweaking level design, enemy AI, weapon behavior, and most importantly, keeping all of these changes optional.
Ah, Freeman. I see you were in this mess too.
Now, there's no argument that Half-Life is one of the most important first-person shooters of all time, and there's two types of people in the world, right? Those who agree with that statement, and then those who are wrong.
I don't know how you can say that.
Because love it or hate it, the fact of the matter is that it helped to popularize that narrative-driven FPS for years to come, helping to pioneer environmental storytelling and immersive gameplay. And although it is a bit rough around the edges in its old age, I mean, aren't we all? You can still appreciate it for what it is, back from a time when Valve were still just warming up. Countless other games also owe their existence to Half-Life as well, and without Half-Life there'd be no Counter-Strike, or now Counter-Strike 2. There wouldn't have been a Team Fortress Classic, and as a result of that, there probably wouldn't be Team Fortress 2.
Not a crazed gunman, Dad. I'm an assassin.
So now with the release of MMod, there's another reason to go back and appreciate it all over again. And it's even got support for Uplink and Darkstar. Developed by Gunship Mark II, MMod was originally released way back in 2012, but it's only now in 2023 that version 2 has seen the light of day. Installing the mod is as easy as just downloading it on Steam, which takes a grand total of 20 seconds, then you're right in without any fussing around whatsoever.
What is that smell?
Right off the bat, the first and best thing I notice is that you've got a chapter select on the main menu, meaning you can skip right over that boring ass prologue that we've all played through 100 times now.
Gordon doesn't need to hear all this. He's a highly trained professional.
Still don't know why Valve hasn't added this feature to the original game, and the fact that Half-Life Source has it just kind of feels like they're laughing in our faces at that point.
No!
Anyway, once you get into the game, if you ever look down at your own feet, you'll also see your torso and legs. Something which is a minor but welcome inclusion, and truly something that more first-person games should include so you don't just feel like a floating set of arms. You'll also notice that the Barney security guards look, well, different.
Main thing is, the military aborted the launch.
Yeah, that's a haircut you can set your watch to.
Now, Johnny Unitas, there's a haircut you could set your watch to.
Sadly though, there's no fully modelled cervix for Gordon or any of the other Black Mesa employees, but maybe they're working on that in a future update.
Dr. Freeman, I presume.
But it's after Gordon causes that old resonance cascade when the mod truly starts to shine. And what I like the most about MMod in that regard is that it doesn't try to reinvent the wheel. It's just got all these small changes to how weapons look, move and feel, so it keeps it in line with the tone of the original. But then it just gives it that bit of modernisation to drag it out of the 90s. Even just moving around and aiming feels smoother and more fluid, and animations across the board are also improved. Yeah, it's kind of like they're being Black Mesa-fied. Playing through those early chapters in the campaign, you start to notice how they've added in more enemies, mostly in spots where there were no enemies to begin with. Like during unforeseen consequences, when you're navigating through the sewers and jumping over those crates suspended over a bottomless pit, you've now got to contend with Vortigons spawning in as well. And I swear to God, this mod puts a head crab around every second corner, because there's just way more of these assholes now than I remember there being.
Surprise, motherfucker!
Headcrab zombies that have taken over the security guards and have body armor now have more health points, which kind of makes sense if you think about it. And then there's also entirely new sequences, like during Questionable Ethics, there's a bit where a cheeky Vortigon traps you in a test chamber and sets off the machine, forcing you to hide in one of those enclosures. At one point too, a random Marine just happened to retreat into that room when he was running away from me, and he set off the event, which was pretty funny to witness, and shows off just how random the AI can be in this mod at times. And then later on in Forget About Freeman, there's a whole new combat sequence in an area which was formerly just inhabited with a bunch of assassins. Now it's like a full-on battle royale with headcrab zombies, marines and aliens. Yeah, it's like one big gory gangbang and everyone's invited. I feel like a lot of mods for FPS games have like a tendency to overhaul every mechanic and completely change how the whole thing feels in tone and balancing. I mean, go play through Cinematic Mod for Half-Life 2, for instance, or even something more ludicrous like S-Mod. Look, if a grown man can't kill things in a video game by shooting toilets at them, then maybe life's just not worth living. M-Mod, on the other hand, just feels like it's improving what's already there. You can see that the best when you get into combat with the Marines, in the way that all the explosions and the gore from the kills just seems to be much more visceral and graphic. but not in like a brutal Half-Life kind of way where intestines and bodily fluids decorate every surface. What's probably the biggest change is the option to turn on bullet projectiles as opposed to hit scanning. Now this is actually a pretty huge deal because one of the things which I think ages the combat the most in the original, and truthfully the combat in a lot of other older shooters, is the hit scanning enemies. Now hit scanning basically means that if your crosshair is on something and you press the shoot button, well you'll hit it instantly, and that's the case for 99% of weapons like pistols, shotguns and assault rifles. You'd see this the most in the original Half-Life when you got into shootouts with the Marines where you could do little more than just trade shots with them back and forth. It also meant that playing on hard mode wasn't really all that much about skill and more about just knowing where they came from and attacking preemptively. It's hands down one of the crappiest aspects to Half-Life's combat and something which ain't really getting any better with age. So the simple feature of turning all these bullets into projectiles pretty much alleviates that problem entirely. What it means now is that strafing around during combat actually has a purpose, as there's going to be a slight delay between when an enemy shoots at you and when that bullet's going to hit its target. You ever wonder why so many recent FPS games use projectile attacks as opposed to hit scanning? Well, because avoiding projectiles takes actual skill, whereas avoiding hit scanning just means putting a solid object between you and your opponent. And that's why games like Ultra Kill and Doom Eternal take way more skill to master than Call of Duty Vanguard. One of my favourite things to do in Half-Life whenever I got bored was to mess around with the time scaling options to more or less kind of make my own bullet time mechanic. And doing this now actually has a purpose, letting you see individual bullets fly past you in real time and also letting you appreciate all those improved particle effects.
Dear God, it's beautiful.
Now, it is obviously a double-edged sword, and you've got to be mindful of bullet velocity too, but it's just a simple addition to a combat system which otherwise feels more and more like something from 1998 with each passing day. So I guess my point is, if you're going to try out this mod and only use one feature, well, make sure it's this, bitch. Now when it comes to the weapons, it doesn't take too long to see all the new features they've added in. Starting off with Gordon's crowbar, which now comes with a heavy alternate attack. This makes dealing with head crabs and head crab zombies far easier than having to whack them a dozen times. And it's also handy against Gordon's most deadly enemies, crates. The pistol can now be fired much faster than the original, which actually kind of makes it useful outside of just shooting head crabs or barnacles. And funnily enough, the alternate fire mode is what makes the weapon fire slower and more accurately. Other than that, the addition of a silencer is a nice touch too. This is also something they've applied to the MP5, so aside from having a slightly better looking model and smoother animations, you can again attach a silencer, which seems to do absolutely nothing, apart from just dampen the sound and make you look about 50% more cooler. Because let's be honest, it is a scientific fact that shooting silenced weapons is much cooler than shooting unsilenced ones. As for the revolver, well, this thing's gotten the firing rate update as well and comes with the laser sight attachment as an alternate fire, which lets you zoom in for more accurate shots, and that's something that was previously limited to the deathmatch mode. Plus, the laser attachment also slows down the firing rate and makes it more akin to the Desert Eagle in opposing force. Now, what seems to have had the least work done to it is the shotgun, and outside of having a unique crosshair, it more or less behaves the same way it always has. This to me is a bit of a shame because I've always thought the shotgun in the original was one of the crappiest weapons in Gordon's arsenal, and as far as FPS shotguns go, that thing's about as imposing as a duck's fart. It wasn't even that good for the time either. I mean, compared to the shotgun in Turok 2 for instance, or even Blood 2's shotgun was better. Just never really had like a great sense of power to it, and the really slow reload time, where Gordon just casually loads in shells like he's under no duress whatsoever, makes the whole thing even more pathetic. Pathetic!
Failure of this magnitude is extremely improbable.
Overall with the shotgun, I see no changes. Wake up in the morning and I ask myself, is life worth living? Should I blast myself?
Shut up!
Another odd change is that for some reason the mod maker thought that the crossbow needed more drop off than the original had, which means that this thing dips faster than a baby boomer coming off a Viagra high. And this is probably one of the few changes that I just don't quite understand. I mean, the original weapon was pretty balanced to begin with, so giving the bolts this insane amount of drop-off just seems like a handicap. Just kind of feels like a change made for the sake of making a change. Grenades in the satchel charge, though, still serve their purpose in causing grievous bodily harm to whatever happens to be standing near them. And as far as I can tell, all that's really changed here is that the explosion effect has been updated to look even more impressive, which it is. Same thing goes for the MP5's Ultimate Fire, which has that great way of just turning enemies into chunky looking soup. Later in the campaign you come across the RPG, which once again serves its purpose in destroying pretty much whatever's on the other end of it.
Rocket launcher!
And what I like about the version in M-Mod is how that little screen on the side of it actually turns on and off, depending on whether or not you're using that laser targeting mode. The tower cannon makes its return again in unforeseen consequences and is great at doing either the small or heavy lifting, destroying standard enemies, but also being really handy at taking down the heavy hitters like combat choppers thanks to that overpowered Ultimate Fire mode. They've also added in a new handle on the side of the weapon for added comfort and has a really cool idle animation now as well. As for the one gun, well, this thing more or less again performs the way it always has, just with a new Ultimate Fire mode which fires off a charged up shot. As an alternative to the steady stream from the primary fire, which still looks like the proton pack from Ghostbusters.
Nice shooting, Tex.
Still though, it is a really fun weapon to use, even if it is one of the last ones you come across. As for the snark,
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's okay.
and the trip mines, well, there's not much to say there. I mean, they're still both about as boring as they've always been. And unless the snarks get modded in to give Gordon a hand job, or a claw job I suppose, I doubt I'll really use these anytime soon. They've even somehow managed to make the hive hand useful now. I mean, that primary fire mode is still about as effective as shooting someone with dick warts, but now it has another fire mode which launches all 8 Hornets at once, which does splash damage and hones in on a single enemy. And it's actually kind of effective as an option if you don't want to waste ammo. Finally, just before you head to Zen, you get the Displacer Cannon from Opposing Force, which more or less now behaves like a goddamn BFG. But you know what? I just can't find anything to fault there, outside of it maybe being gate-kept until the end of the game. All I'll say there is thank God for console commands. Yeah, one thing I forgot to mention too is how when you pick up a weapon for the first time, comes with like a new unique animation of Gordon getting a stiffy for a few seconds as he admires it. And look, I get it. I mean, if you can't take a few seconds to admire the craftsmanship of an MP5 in the midst of a world-ending disaster, well then, life just ain't worth living. And yeah, plus I didn't mention the best feature of all. The whole thing is free.
What is that smell?
Quite a robust amount of modifiers to play with as Half-Life 2's Zen mod was, but the changes it makes are small and yet still pretty big at the same time, so it is easier to see here where all the hard work is gone. Overall, there's very little to fault here with the modifications this thing makes, and I'd even say it's to the point where if someone wanted to play through Half-Life for their first time experience and wanted to use this mod, it's really probably not the worst way to do it. I mean, yeah, look, obviously you should play the original first, but if you just can't deal with the fact that this thing is 15 odd years old now, well, M-Mod might help to alleviate some of that.
That's the ad read. Yeah, get M-Mod. Just get it. And we'll finish off with a fucked up one.
The modding scene is a bizarre and strange one. You've got people creating some legitimately great content, things like Blade of Agony and Unloved for Doom, and older mods like They Hunger for Half-Life. Then on the flip side you get something like the Moonman mod, and for Half-Life you get case in point, Crack Life. Originally released in 2012, it's self-described as a retarded, unfunny, racist and offensive mod, the holy quadfecta for making a mod popular on the internet. Running alongside the original Half-Life, it's a downright batshit insane creation that replaces pretty much all of the sound effects for the entire game, as well as making a few other key changes to certain other aspects of the game. Now, if I could compare what Cracklife has done to Half-Life, it would be like someone going through every frame in a film like Citizen Kane or Casablanca and drawing dicks over everyone's faces and replacing dialogue with distorted screaming. Every sound effect has been switched, from doors opening and Gordon's footsteps through to weapons and explosions. The sound of a chopper exploding, for instance, now sounds like someone blowing a raspberry. Now look, Sonny Jims, I can't stress here enough that I'm in no way trying to be sanctimonious, but let's be honest, this mod is stupid as hell, and in a similar vein to something like Grezzo 2, it relies solely on just being as absurd as possible to create a name for itself. But to dumb it down to its most basic level, it's basically just 4chan in a Half-Life mod.
Are you fucking insane?
The changes in the mod are plentiful and noticeable from the get-go. Right off the bat, during the iconic tram ride prologue, you'll notice the narration inside the tram has been changed to something a lot more colourful.
Seriously, everybody is a fucking retard and a freak.
And when you try to quick save, you'll notice the text game saved is replaced with fuck you. Makes sense. But it's when you finally arrive at the anomalous materials chapter where things really kick off. The older, balding scientists sport giant moustaches and noses. The Kleiner scientists have afros and clown shoes, and Barney, well, I don't even know what the hell Barney is supposed to be. Anyway, things progress as they did in the original game. You enter the testing chamber, things go to shit, and the resonance cascade occurs, and at this point you can finally begin enjoying Cracklife for all it has to offer. You'll notice that Vortigaunts are now German soldiers, or Nazis I guess, armed with MP44s. Headcrabs wear top hats, and headcrab zombies appear to be chavs or slavs armed with baseball bats. In terms of the weapons, they're all here, though now the pistol is a cock and balls, a surprisingly powerful cock and balls too, I might add. Gordon's iconic crowbar is now replaced with his fists, and the shotgun and railgun model has been ripped straight from Quake 3, replacing the shotgun and Gauss gun respectively. The MP5 is the same as the original game, but now has a much faster firing rate, and the grenade launcher is infinite and rapid firing as well, and that is as broken as it sounds. Grenades are replaced by Pepsi cans stuffed with a pack of Mentos because I guess that makes sense. Snarks function the same, though for some reason they're wearing what I think are boater hats because why not, and the RPG now launches nukes. Now these aren't the worst changes, to be honest. In fact, the MP5 is actually quite a lot of fun to use, especially with the rapid firing grenade launcher alt fire. The railgun's also kinda dope to use and does a hell of a lot of damage, so all up, the weapon changes aren't really all that bad, and buggering around with them is pretty fun. But look, I'm not gonna sit here like a complete asshole listing every single thing the mod changes. I'll instead talk about where I think it doesn't work. I guess my major complaint with the mod, aside from it just being stupid as hell, is how they've made the heads-up display all but completely illegible. It's pretty much impossible to see how much health, HEV, energy, and ammo you've got because the font or the characters they've used makes it unreadable. I can put up with all the other dumb stuff in the game, all the loud, ear-piercing sound effects that make my ears bleed, and the juvenile, idiotic sense of humour the mod has that feels like it's from a Gary's Mod compilation.
Something died down here.
But when they screw around with the user interface to the point that you can't see crucial information like health and ammo, well, I kinda take issue. My other problem is with the Vortigaunts or the German soldiers or Nazis or whatever the hell they are, which are simply broken. They have the same attack as before, with a sort of charged up lightning attack that relies on line of sight. However, with the Vortigaunts this was a cinch because there was a charge up time before they could fire it. And if you weren't a complete moron, you could easily hide around the nearest corner and avoid taking damage. But in Cracklife, there's barely any cooldown, and they can just fire constantly. Now, I get that you're really not supposed to be playing the mod as you would vanilla Half-Life, but this is the kind of thing that makes or breaks a mod, being that it simply doesn't function with the base game fully. I mean, as stupid as a mod like Moon Man is, or dare I say it, hates Doom, the simple truth is that you can load those mods up and play through Doom 1 and 2 in its entirety without any hiccups. The numerous changes they've made to both those mods don't make the base game unplayable or unbalanced, and that's what I think is the definition of a good mod, and the same can't be said about Cracklife. It seemed they did kind of learn from their mistakes when they released the Cracklife campaign mode in 2014 as they fixed a few of these issues. Campaign being a bit of a misnomer here though, as there's not really any story as far as I could tell, it's just a series of random environments and encounters. The weapons here are either brought across from the Cracklife mod or changed entirely. The shotgun, for instance, from Half-Life is back, though now it's aligned to the center of the screen to resemble the shotgun from Doom. And there's dual-wielding sawn-off shotguns as well, which I think is influenced by Blood 2. Crossbow now shoots in rapid fire and the RPG can be dual wielded as well, which is kinda awesome. Other improvements include the fact that they've made it so you can actually read the goddamn heads up display. And more importantly, the Vortigons are back, albeit with afros and dancing to disco music. The campaign mode references other video games like Deus Ex, Metal Gear Solid, Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, and even Dark Souls. Aside from that, you can expect a similar level of toilet humour and the almost constant references to dated internet memes. Go watch a cringe compilation on YouTube from back in 2014, you'll see a lot of the stuff they've used in this mod. At one point there's even a boss fight against Skrillex. Yeah, Skrillex, remember that guy? As you'd expect, nothing in this campaign ever really makes any kind of sense. It's just this kaleidoscope of weird and wacky shit. Again, it's the kind of stuff that 13-year-olds playing Gary's mod are gonna find hilarious, but everyone else will probably think it's a bit stupid.
I keep getting asked the same question over and over. Do you even live?
Like I said earlier, I'm not trying to act all high and mighty, and I won't lie, there's a few things that got a genuine...
Okay, you've seen enough. It's fucked up. Let me show you one more thing. I just want to know if you know about this. You ever seen Hunt Down the Freeman? This is like the biggest insult to Half-Life ever. Alright, here we go. Just so we're clear, never pay money for this game. Just don't. You'll find out why.
Hunt Down the Freeman is the worst thing ever made by another human being. It's an insult to first-person shooters, it's an insult to Half-Life 2, but most importantly, it's an insult to the Half-Life 2 modding community. Unabashedly stealing assets from other more talented people to palm off as its own. Now, I just don't know where to begin with this one, from the contrived and shoddy storyline to the game-breaking bugs that prevent some people from finishing the game at all. It's probably the biggest train wreck I think I've seen in recent years, and the fact these guys think they can get away with charging money for this steaming pile of shit is even more insulting. So ignoring the fact that it's a Half-Life game with pre-rendered cutscenes, which is the complete opposite of what the whole series is about, it does at least try to tell a decent story. The premise is that you're a member of the HECU named Mitchell, sent into Black Mesa during the events of the Resonance Cascade. During the prologue, you're attacked by someone wearing a HEV suit who's assumed to be Gordon Freeman, who for some reason acts like a complete psycho and beats the crap out of you, leaving you at near death. This crowbar beating turns a protagonist into the most edgiest character in the history of gaming, with these horrible looking scars across his face and this long slicked back hair that reminds me of how they butchered the Point Man in Fear 3. From this point you awaken in a hospital after someone doing a really bad job at impersonating the G-Man brings you out of stasis, around the time of the 7-hour war where Earth originally surrendered to the Combine. From this point I think the goal just becomes to get out of the city, with the notion of hunting down Freeman lost somewhere in the middle of it. Now look, I don't want to spoil anything, not that it really matters all that much, but honestly this game's kind of been marketed on a lie, and the content shown in the trailers doesn't even match up to what happens in the final product. If you're unfortunate enough to play through this thing, well, you'll see what I'm talking about. That's if you even pick up on this anyway, because the story is so poorly told and the voice acting so piss poor that you'll lose all interest during the very cinematics anyway. The guy impersonating the G-Man, for instance, mispronounces Black Mesa, calling it Black Mesa. Now, this isn't an instance of tomatoes and tomatoes, he just mispronounces it entirely.
Black Mesa.
Not to mention the audio mixing during these is just all over the place. I mean, there were times when I had to turn my speakers up to the max because audio levels for certain characters was lower than others.
Well, look who we got here, boys. A Black Ops and a Marine. Hoorah.
Then there's one cinematic where one of the actors has clearly used a different microphone to record his lines than the one that's doing Mitchell's voice. Mitchell's lines sound really clean and clear, but the other one sounds like he's recorded his lines on a smartphone in his bathroom.
The second way?
I forgot, okay? I'm under pressure here, give me a fucking break.
First way then.
It'd be like me doing half my narration like this, and then the other half like this. See what I mean? And then with certain dialogue lines, you can even hear like the microphone popping as well, because the person doing that voiceover is standing too close to the microphone like this.
Mitchell, stop being weird.
But just in terms of the writing, it's just really bad. It's like crappy fanfiction at the best of times, and the dialogue is super cringy.
Hero? You're talking to a villain, my dear. The hero inside of me died many, many years ago when I was young.
Alex.
Yes, Captain?
If your mother was alive, she'd be proud of you, son.
My mother's dead?
You fucked up my face.
About the only saving grace is that the person who's made these in Source Filmmaker kinda knows what they're doing, so they're not all that bad to look at. Compared to another Source Engine dialogue heavy mod like Underhell 2, where NPCs would just stand there delivering 15-minute monologues.
God help us. No. God will stay away from this one.
Visually, this is a horrific looking game too. It's the kind of thing you'd see back in 2004 or 2005 when people were just first getting into making their own custom maps for Half-Life 2. I mean, at one point I saw a ramp with a staircase textured onto it, instead of modelling an actual staircase. I actually thought there might have been a problem with the textures loading in or something because they really do look that bad at times, but no, they're just that crappy. I mean, get a load of this stunning Vista for instance, which I'm interpreting as being an ironic throwback to the days of the Quake 2 engine, and oh look, it's raining underwater too. During some of the exterior locations, you'll see miles and miles of flat terrain with no detail whatsoever, just quite literally a flat surface with like a grass or a water texture. Hunt Down the Freeman also barely has an original bone in its body. Not only does it use all of the basic props from the original game, like the wooden crates and wrecked cars, but it uses a lot of basic textures as well. Then it also steals assets from so many other Source Engine games, like there's huge chunks of maps that I think might have been copied and pasted from the Left 4 Dead games. You'll also see the City 17 prologue and the cemetery from Ravenholm added in as well. People are actually compiling a complete list of these on the Steam forums, and apparently there's even been weapon models and animations taken from games that don't even run on the Source Engine in the first place. Expectedly, you'll see plenty of head crab zombies and so forth, and you're also fighting a new bigger variant of the Combine enemies early on, and eventually the Resistance, which are both just lazily reskinned Combine soldiers. I mean, they even have that same shuffling sound effect when they're running around. Outside of that, everything that's actually original content just looks really bland and dated, and there's character models in this game that are truly some of the worst I've ever seen in the Source Engine. They just look terrible. I mean, look at this guy for instance, he looks like something from the Nintendo 64.
Really?
The architecture of the levels lacks any real kind of detail. There's often long empty hallways that are flat and featureless, with lighting often being thrown in willy-nilly. Some of these are just blatant filler and will often just take you 5 or 10 minutes to traverse, being completely devoid of items or even enemies. One of the exterior areas you're driving a Humvee and escorting this truck through this opened up valley, and it honestly looks like those old Delta Force games from the late 1990s. The Humvee uses the same sound effects as the buggy from Half-Life 2, and it even handles exactly like it too. Later on they do the same thing when you're on a motorbike, and it's got the same sound and again the same handling as the muscle car from episode 2. I mean, it's just lazy. It's lazy. And aside from that, it just keeps getting better. Load times are horrendous. I mean, there was times when it took upwards of 2 or 3 minutes to load a single map, which was even more infuriating because the game often crashed during loading screens as well. And I lost count the amount of times I got stuck in something and simply couldn't progress onward because of some invisible barrier that was stuck in my way, which forced me to open the console, turn on no clip just to proceed. At one point, that truck I was talking about earlier, I assume, was supposed to smash through a pile of cars and keep on driving, and yet after restarting the map 3 times, it got stuck every instance. And again, I had to no-clip through it and fly to the end of the map. Even the level design at its core though is just poor and often outright unfair. You're frequently fighting droves of enemies and barely given any health or ammo to get by. I mean, like, get a load of this. Do you think they put in enough head crabs? There's one point where there's literally like 7 or 8 Combine hunters chasing after you at once, and all you've got is an M16 and a crappy shotgun. Combat often takes place in large open environments with very little cover provided to the player, and it's often really confusing as where to go next, as the layout and design lacks any real kind of flow or structure. Half the time I just ended up sprinting around until the game faded to black, indicating I'd found the next map transition. Oh, and there's a parkour mechanic too, which you'll need to use like a bunch of times to progress, all of which is animated horribly and is often really temperamental. You need to holster your weapon to even use this feature, though that's something that the game doesn't even tell you. And I guess it wouldn't matter if the weapons in the shooting was any good, but it's not. There's a couple of machine guns, a couple of pistols, SMGs, a shotgun, a sniper rifle, and they've all got iron sights because, yeah, of course they do. New weapons like the Scorpion submachine gun and the double-barreled shotgun just feel wildly out of place in Half-Life's universe, and artistically they don't fit in with the theme at all either. And all of them just feel like hot garbage when firing. The crosshair's disabled by default for some reason, and aiming down the sights feels very clunky because it also zooms in your view slightly depending on the weapon you're using, making precise aim kinda tricky, more so because of the weapon's recoil. I mean, shooting in the Half-Life 2 games has never been all that amazing, so to somehow make it even worse is worthy of recognition. The point where the game finally broke me though came about 2 or 3 hours in. During some part where I was holding out on a ship with a bunch of soldiers as we were attacked wave after wave by Vortigons and exploding manhacks. And for some reason the AI kept crouching and standing again like they were teabagging someone, and for some reason this just caused me to laugh hysterically for 5 minutes. Afterwards though, I sunk into a deep, dark, depressed state that didn't really improve until I finally finished the game 4 or so hours later. This game truly takes a mental toll on the player because it feels like an absolute chore to play, and it lacks any real semblance of enjoyment or fun. Whenever you finally think there's going to be something that doesn't actually suck balls, it's usually squandered because it outstays its welcome. Like this section on top of a train where you'll spend 10 minutes just gunning down hunter choppers with a minigun and your never-ending ammo supply. Or later on when you get a double-barreled shotgun and can kill some zombies in a dark spooky forest, which seems fun initially, but after going in circles for 15 minutes, you'll feel just as brain dead as the zombies are. Everything negative you've heard about this game is probably true. Though some people aren't exactly putting it all that eloquently, it is a genuinely terrible game and a complete waste of time.
If you say so.
People who say good things about this thing probably got it for free, or maybe they know someone involved with the development team and don't want to hurt their feelings, or maybe they just have incredibly low standards. But even if I pirated this game, I'd probably want my money back.
You fucked up my face.
I've never been so happy to see the ending screen of a video game, and about the only positive takeaway I can see from this whole thing is that I'll never have to play it again. And hopefully this video will serve as a warning to other Sunny Gyms thinking about picking it up. Hunt down the refund indeed.
Yeah, it's bad. Just... yeah. You know, I'll show you one more before I clock out, because, man... everything's cinematic mod. I'll end with this one. Have you ever seen this one yet? I think this one's still available if you want to get it. No, okay, here you go.
Rise and shine, Mr. Freeman. Rise and shine.
I'd say the Half-Life 2 modding scene doesn't quite stack up in terms of quantity against other FPS games like Doom or even Half-Life 1, but it's had its fair share of mods all the same. One of the most famous mods I think for Half-Life 2 is the cinematic mod, but for all the wrong reasons, and I'm not even sure when exactly the whole thing started. It's been a while since I played through Half-Life 2 and stepped into the boots of my favourite HEV suit-wearing protagonist, so I downloaded the 16GB installer and checked it out to see what it's all about.
Dr. Freeman, I presume.
Now here's how Cinematic Mod describes itself. Cinematic Mod raises the outdated graphical appearance of the Half-Life 2 trilogy to a state-of-the-art level, whilst giving it a more stressed, darker and minotaur look. All low-res textures are replaced with high-res counterparts. Cinematic Mod adds an emotional cinematic music soundtrack, optional HD models and unused content from the original games. Now that all sounds good in theory, but I don't think there's ever been a Half-Life 2 mod as notorious as this one. Notorious for its mashing of different visual styles, notorious for a huge goddamn dildo in Alex Vance's bedroom, and for its salty developer, a German guy named Fake Factory who apparently isn't the best at taking criticism. At the most basic level, what Cinematic Mod has done is exactly what it sets out to do. Update the game's presentation to make it feel a bit more contemporary. The textures have all been updated and are generally of a much higher level of fidelity, though a lot of the time they don't quite match up with everything else thematically, even though they are a lot more detailed and sharper. When I ran the installer, I was a little bit shocked to see the game would take up close to 50GB of hard drive space, compared to I think 2 or 3GB that Half-Life 2 originally takes up. I mean, as a comparison, the recently released Wolfenstein 2 The New Colossus took up 54GB, and that's a game that's easily more demanding visually and looks way better. But then when you get into the mod and see the new textures and the models, you'll probably understand why, as almost every single aspect of the game's presentation has been overhauled, presumably in the most uncompressed way possible. Certain areas of the game are now much more populated with props to give the game a much richer sense of detail. Now this might be more pieces of garbage scattered around the outskirts of City 17, or grass patches speckled here and there, or the same looking fern copied and pasted 100 times over. And let me say, if you had a problem with physics items getting stuck under your feet in vanilla Half-Life 2, well, wait until you play this. Kelly Bailey's iconic soundtrack, a mix of orchestral and electronic instruments, has been replaced by a soundtrack deemed more cinematic, which is mostly just by the sounds of it Hans Zimmer tracks from the Dark Knight trilogy, which adapt dynamically to what you're doing in the game. So if you're just walking around, the music is a bit quieter and less intense, but engage in combat and it really starts to ramp up to suit the action. And look, honestly, it's probably the best thing about the entire mod is just how well this music works. Now, I'm not sure if this works so well because Hans Zimmer music goes well with everything or if it's being utilised properly, but I'm not gonna lie, flying through the canals on the airboat and hearing that thumping score from The Dark Knight as I'm being shot at by the Hunter Chopper is pretty damn epic. Honestly though, I don't mind these changes all that much. I think how bad the environments look is blown a little bit out of proportion. I think the main issue is that the style from area to area can often differ greatly to the point where it sometimes doesn't even look like you're playing the same game. This is most noticeable during the chapters in Highway 17, where it almost looks more like the similar outdoor areas from Episode 2, which I think is an attempt to link them together visually, except both games took place in different areas geographically, so it doesn't make all that much sense. And like I said, it doesn't really feel much like the original Highway 17, it just feels like a different area entirely. Same goes for a lot of the character models, especially the women. All of the variants of Alex honestly look like Victoria's Secret models, and it just seems out of place with Half-Life 2's decidedly dystopian theme. All of the weapons have been given a bit of a visual facelift and some have been outright replaced. The USP is replaced with a SOCOM with a laser sight, which completely messes up aiming, but hey, I guess laser sights are more cinematic, right? The MP7 is now an MP5, and I'm not even too sure what they've used to replace the Overwatch pulse rifle. Again, it looks like an MP5 just with a sight attached, but I'm sure someone in the comments can correct me and probably will. Other weapons from Half-Life 2 like the crossbow, the RPG and the shotgun look like they're still based off the same weapons, they've just got high resolution textures to make them look, I guess, a little bit better. Though whether or not they look better is up to someone's personal point of view. It's the character models though where things just start to get a little bit silly. By default, the character models are the originals from Half-Life 2 with nothing changed. But using this little program in the game's directory called the Character Pimper, you can choose whether or not to update every single character model into the game to the cinematic mod standard. Now, whereas every other character in the game has literally either an on or an off option for their cinematic model, Alex has 38 different options. This is split up between 4 or 5 different models, with each model then having half a dozen or so variants. You can even choose to change her outfit during the campaign, so say when you first meet her during the prologue you want her in a hat and jeans, but then later on when you're blasting through Nova Prospect, you'd want her decked out in some kind of combat suit. Well, as Captain Planet used to say, Sonny Jim, the power is yours. It's pretty hard to overstate just how dumb some of these models look, and every variant is pretty much hypersexualized, and they're apparently based off supermodels, which makes sense. And if that's not enough TNA for you, well, there's also the numerous photos of other semi-naked women throughout the game world, and then there's outright pornographic graffiti as well. I'm not even joking. Fake Factory, you are one seriously horny dude. To be honest though, it all just kind of adds to the charm and the bizarrety of the whole thing. And there is actually a pretty vanilla version of Alex that looks mostly like the original, just again with high resolution texture work and a bit more detail overall.
Dr. Freeman, I presume.
Same can't be said about the others though, especially Barney. I mean, I don't even know who he's supposed to be based off now.
It's me, Gordon. Barney from Black Mesa.
But I can deal with changing around the visuals. I don't care if you replace characters with Keanu Reeves or Scarlett Johansson. And I can even get over the fact that he's added in a giant dildo in Alex's bedroom. Whoa! But what I can't stand is when the gameplay gets fucked with, and that's where Cinematic Mod really shits the bed. For some reason, Fake Factory decided to mess around with the way a lot of the weapons handle, specifically the pistol, the SMG and the assault rifle. So now you pretty much have to use iron sights with these things in combat, or else you often won't be able to hit the side of a goddamn barn. Here's a little clip of me firing the MP5 for instance, and you can just see how all over the place the accuracy is now because of the way he's screwed around with the weapon's recoil and spread. The pistol suffers from this the least, but the idiotic laser sight, which I don't think you can even turn off, throws off my aim a fair bit, because the sight doesn't always aim up with the crosshair on screen, making it really confusing. I don't think the AI has been modified to suit these new ballistics, because those armed with machine guns now seem to have stormtrooper accuracy and often barely hit me, compared to the shotgun-wielding Combine, who thanks to the increased damage output from the shotgun are now even more annoying and dangerous. The one thing that didn't need to be increased in Half-Life 2 was the goddamn shotgun damage. The shooting was never that good in Half-Life 2 to begin with. I mean, you're using hit-scanning weapons and fighting hit-scanning enemies like 90% of the time, so there was very little variety in it to begin with, but the fact that it's now substantially worse off in this mod speaks volumes. I've noticed a lot of minor changes as well, like somehow the airboat section is a lot worse off too. Now, I don't know if this thing is in my head, but it seems the airboat controls a lot worse than it even did before. And it takes a special kind of magic to somehow make those controls even worse than they already were. There's other minor level design choices which mess with the flow of things as well, like the bit in Highway 17 after you've just spent a few agonizing minutes controlling that horrible magnet crane, and then you smash through a nearby window with your buggy and fly off down the highway. Well, now the road just outside the smashed window is blocked with cars that you have to stop and move with the gravity gun. All that sense of speed and energy you felt finally getting back into the buggy after that short slog comes to a dead stop as you're again doing cleanup duty. And the mod is just full of these kind of moments, and if you haven't played Half-Life 2, well, you probably might not notice this, but people who've finished it countless times definitely will, and it kind of sticks out like a sore thumb. Like I said, mess with the visuals as much as you want. Stick all the page 3 gold posters up on walls you can find, I don't care, but don't mess around with the gameplay if you don't know what the hell you're doing. I mean, if you're going to repaint the Mona Lisa, just repaint the Mona Lisa. Don't add earrings or makeup or put no bay hat on her head, just leave her the way she is. Now, I know Fake Factory got a lot of hate for the work he did on this mod, and the word is that he stopped working on it simply because from the backlash he got from the community. And whilst I don't think the mod is amazing, I can still kind of appreciate the amount of time and effort that he's put into it over the last few years, despite how it's often turned out. If not for the ridiculous file size, I'd say Cinematic Mod would just be worth checking out for the novelty, but the download time, the installation time, and getting everything up and running can be a bit of a goddamn hassle. And considering the other changes it makes to the gameplay are highly subjective, I'd say it's not really worth it. But hey...
Yeah, that's Cinematic Mod. You can download at your own risk. Well, the guy that made that, yeah, man. Have a good night, bud. Hopefully I'll see you next time. Oh, shit. Yeah, I'm getting tired. All right, have yourself a good one, man. Take care.